kids to know, like, for example, I'm gonna teach a unit on mammals. And then within that unit, I have several different lessons with several different objectives that are all designed to get kids to learn more about mammals. So be able to sort of in your mind, what's the difference between a goal, a unit, an objective, what else did we say? Curriculum. So be able to just sort of distinguish those in your brain. Okay, so know the difference between formative and summative assessment. And I always think about formative as I'm still forming my opinion. So formative kind of happens throughout your unit. Summative is like I'm summarizing what I think. So they're taking a test and whatever that is, I'm gonna summarize it, and that's how they did in this unit. So know the difference between formative and summative assessment.
So, like, a test would be summative, like the multiple choice test, and then a rubric is gonna be formative.
Or an anecdotal note, like formative would it maybe incorporate all of those things.
Like a portfolio.
Yeah, it could actually be a test, but it's typically combined with several other things. I'm just using a bunch of different things to help me figure out where the kid's knowledge lies. Whereas summative is like I'm now summarizing everything I know. I'm summarizing.
So summative would be like a final exam.
Yeah,
And then
sure would.
formative is like
All the things that you did over the course of the semester.
So like quizzes, would those be formative, because like you're doing them throughout, or
They could
are
be.
they summative?
I mean, it depends on how, some of this depends on how you use them. So if I use one quiz to assess how he did on the entire unit, then it's a summative assessment. But if I use a quiz and anecdotal notes and teacher observation and some rubrics, then that's all, then it could be considered formative. It's just a piece of what I'm using. But in general, formative assessment is assessment that happens throughout a unit. Summative happens at the very end. It's like a one shot at the end. Here's how you did. So what do you guys know about tourist curriculum? Do you remember that? We talked about it.
Take like a week to talk about like different cultures and then you could take snapshots of different cultures.
Right? So so know what tourist curriculum is. And it's basically it's not authentically integrated. We sort of talked about it, and I have mixed feelings about things like Black History Month, or I have mixed feelings about it, because I think if we don't have a month for that, I think you do have some teachers that will just never discuss it. We'll never discuss it. But the most authentic way to talk about the achievements, for example, of African American people in American history is to do that across your curriculum all the time. You choose authors, you choose stories, you choose narratives, you look at videos, you don't just do it in 1 month. So I think I told you about this was a long time ago, but they were doing like a trip around the world, and for China, the centers were in the they were in the Chinese carryout, right? That's so lame, right? It's so inauthentic. It's so stupid. You don't even see Chinese takeout carriers, by the way, in China. I was there for a long time, and you don't see them. So it's just kind of this drive-by tourist curriculum.
Oh, tourist. I was
Yeah.
like Torres.
No, I know.
Tourist.
It's like a drive-by. You're not really going deep with any of it. You're just sort of hitting it in a really inauthentic way. So be familiar with tourist curriculum. Be familiar with culture and children's culture. Be able to define culture, and you should be good. Also, be familiar with what culturally responsive education or culturally responsive instruction is. Know some of the benefits of drama. I'm not thinking of many right now because I've had a lot of drama this week, so I can't think of any benefits. But if I'm thinking about children engaging in drama within the classroom, what are some benefits there of that? Be familiar with ways that teachers can support children's creativity. Know what the 4 areas of literacy are. Ways that a teacher can support children's creativity, and know specifically what the 4 areas of literacy are. We talked about them, it's one of our PowerPoints. Let me ask you guys a question. Which method is the best way that children can acquire language? If you wanted kids to learn language, what would you do? Thank you. Talk to them. Not talk at them, talk with them, right? So an exchange. Know what makes a good read aloud book. So for example, would a good read aloud book be on the same level as a child? Would it be a level below? Or would it be? Slightly above. Okay, which of these statements would be the most appropriate way to respond to a child's artwork? I like the way you use different markers. What is your picture? It looks like your mom. You did a great job. And the last one, you used both thin and thick lines in your drawing. Okay. Remember, non-evaluative. So you wouldn't praise them. And you wouldn't say, that looks like my grandmother, because it's probably not. So it's another evaluation, right? That looks like I'm using my lens to evaluate the child's piece of art. Okay, that one you guys should be good at. Yeah, you should be able to. Let me ask you guys this one. In the Reggio Emilia approach to learning, we saw a video on that. Remember we saw some of those spaces when we looked at art spaces? In the Reggio Emilia approach to learning, the child is seen as a blank slate, a concrete learner, a capable learner, or a miniature adult. Capable learners. So in that approach, they are really seen as capable learners. Reggio Emilia. It's actually a city in Italy. It's a region in Italy that's kind of known for amazing teaching.
I thought it was a lady at first too.
Okay. There are 3 ways, just know this, that there are 3 ways a teacher can approach art. Non-interventionist, a product-oriented. So non-interventionist would be what? If I'm gonna teach you art and I'm gonna do it in a non-interventionist kind of way, yeah, just go. Just explore with the materials. How about if I'm using a product-oriented?
You have something they want.
That's right, yes. How about art is inquiry? Right? They're exploring something about, and some of you did that like in your lesson plans where they were thinking, maybe not in this class, maybe in my other class, but that they were exploring elements of Cubism, or they were exploring a particular artist like Picasso, his use of geometric shape. So know how art is used in classrooms.
What was product oriented?
Where they're forced to make something.
Forced.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, not forced.
Expected.
Yeah, they're expected, thank you, I'm tired. Yeah, not forced.
I'm like, oh shoot, that's what I did.
Yeah, because if you said that on a test, you'd be like, oh, it's not that one.
You will complete this.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this question. What is the most developmentally appropriate approach to art? Would it be art is inquiry, reductionist, product-oriented? Of those 3 choices, which do you think would be the most developmentally appropriate approach to art? Art is inquiry, reductionist, or product-oriented? Inquiry. That's actually the most developmentally appropriate way to teach art is through inquiry, just having kids ask questions and explore. Okay. All right, so those would be the hardest ones on this test. Those would be the ones that I think consistently students have done some head scratches on. So I gave you the hardest. I gave you at least an overview of the hardest. I think there is a random question, I'm just remembering, I think there's a random question there on math, on what the 5 content strands are. So, the content strands, mathematics content strands. So you've got algebra, geometry, data analysis, algebraic thinking, and I'm missing one, number and operations. So go back and look through those. So what do we teach across all grade levels in math? Actually, they're the same 5 pieces of content. All grade levels. Remember that graph that I showed you? And it talked about like number and operations was huge in pre-K through 3rd, and then it just got smaller and smaller in 12th grade, but it was still there.
Analysis, operations, algebraic thinking.
Algebra, geometry, number and operations, data analysis and probability, geometry. Geometry, number and operations, data analysis, algebraic thinking. That's what I'm missing. I thought I said that one.
You did.
I'm so tired, y'all. I feel like 4 hours of sleep.
So it's algebra, geometry, number and operations, data analysis, and algebraic thinking.
Did you put algebra twice?
Yeah, algebra and algebraic thinking.
No.
Okay. Oh.
Okay, missing one. Measurement, it's measurement, time, weight, measurement, yep, measurement.
I think algebraic thinking is together with algebra.
They should be, they are lined, yeah. But I think what people forget is they go across grade levels. And I have pre-K teachers like, we're not teaching algebraic thinking. I'm like, you are when you're doing calculus, you are teaching it. So I gave you the hardest examples of what would really hang you up on our test. Be prepared to practically apply what you've learned in this class this semester. Be prepared to either write an objective or analyze an objective, maybe both. I'm trying to think of anything else to tell you. What I would do if it were me preparing for this, I would probably look at some of your old tests, but I would also just kind of review vocabulary. I think the vocabulary tends to be what throws people off. But I think if, like what I just told you, if you are good with those things, you will be fine on this test. If you actually investigate what we just went over and you know it, you will be fine. Those are the hardest. The other ones are not as hard. These are the ones that students get really hung up on, these ideas and concepts. So if you leave and study just what we talked about in here today, you will still probably do okay on this test. And remembering, no Kahoot, I did Kahoot in my last class. Yeah, I had like really uptight people in my other class. I was like, okay, y'all need to calm down, it's okay. This one's just kind of a, know the things we just went over and think about the assignments that we've done in this class and some of the big components, the big ideas behind those assignments. So you might see a question asking you to choose a read aloud book. Make sure you know what a good read aloud book would be. Yeah, go back and look at your assignment stuff. So half of it is the content I just gave you that's kind of challenging content. The other, I would say maybe 1/4 of it is really just practical application of things you've already done in class. You've already done it. So just kind of refresh your memory. And then keep in mind it is 30 points up to 100. Right? So don't stress out too bad. Stress out in 4301. 100 point test there.
Is it ABC? Do you think, is that like a long thing?
Audience, behavior, condition, degree, yes. So look up the A, B, and we talked about it, I think, briefly in here.
I
The ABC.
remember about it in here, I just remember it in here, that's what I don't remember.
Take a second. If you presented on Wednesday, I need a reflection so that I can try to finish grading. Your reflections from your art, peer teach art assignment.